Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start. I know people were hopping off last minute of the power hour because it lasted a little bit longer, but I'll go ahead and start just for time's sake. So I do believe that I've actually read this off before. Let me mute everybody. Oh, okay. I do believe I've read this off before, but honestly, it's really good, and I think I have like a different perspective of them when I read it before, and I think it's been a while, so I don't even know if y'all would remember it. I know we have new people on here, so again, just bear with me, but this one was really good, and it's still under the same thing that I read yesterday, so it's called Wait and See, and this one's called Misconceptions. And if you know anything about misconceptions, you know that you constantly have misconceptions in life, and you battle those every single day. I feel like I do. And so this one says misconceptions, and it says recognizing misconceptions will empower us to wait well, stay present in the present, and experience God in our delay. And then it says misconception number 1, if I am waiting, I must not have heard God correctly. Ashley learned that waiting doesn't necessarily mean you heard God incorrectly. Ashley says we give up too easily because we don't see what we want to see when we want to see it. We can redirect the negative thoughts we often receive by revisiting the moments when we sense the Lord's nudging. Reliving the moments of pure excitement we experienced when we felt the prodding of His Spirit will extinguish uncertainty that tries to creep in to steal our joy. We may have to travel down memory lane many times during our wait. Ashley had to make the trip several times throughout her 10-year pause, asking for God's clarity and reassurance. And when they're talking about 10-year pause for Ashley, it was talking about writing the book. So if you were on yesterday, you know what I was talking about. But it says, this is why it is so important to invite God into our wait from the very beginning, instead of after we have tried everything we know to make things happen. As we spend time with Him and His Word, we gain confidence in His plans. A quick visit to the past fills us with the peace we need to make it through the pause. Waiting well teaches us to trust His delays rather than doubt His ways. And then it says, misconception 2 is, if I am waiting, I must desire something not in God's will in my life. And I can actually say I'm very guilty of this. And I've questioned so many things in God's timing, because I thought if I didn't hear Him, that just means that I am not going in the right path, or I'm not doing the things that He wants me to do. And I think that that's very opposite. And so it says, Samantha desired to be married. She knew God ordained and approved marriage, but did He want her to be married? There are plenty of verses in the Bible that talks about marriage relationships, but there are also some that talk about people being single. When passages seemingly conflict, it can be difficult to determine God's will for your life. Samantha asked her family and several close friends to pray for her. She committed to taking each step she felt God asked for her, whether that would toward meeting her future spouse or remaining single. So she was just talking about praying in this waiting period. And then it says misconception 3, if I am waiting, I must not be praying enough. And I can actually say that some of y'all have come to me with this exact issue, with this exact thought. And I want y'all to kind of really just hold on to this and listen to this. So it says, day after day, Diana prayed and sought the Lord. Many days she ate only one meal so her family could have all the food they needed. She watched her husband take odd-end jobs here and there just to make ends meet. Diana spent weekends at the laundromat because she did not have a washer or dryer. She felt the spirit of discouragement on her knees. She knew in her heart God would supply their needs, but she had to keep telling her head. Diana faithfully followed the teaching of Paul and Thessalonians 1, never stopped praying. Her wait didn't end because she prayed, but her resolve strengthened, helping her to face each day. And some of y'all have messaged to me, and some of y'all have talked to me saying, am I praying right? Am I praying enough? Am I praying long enough for God to even hear me? And one thing that I want you to know and walk away with confidently today, especially if you're starting your faith journey, I genuinely believe in people in churches, people in other areas may tell you differently, but I can tell you from personal experience, I go to church too. And I've never once heard my preacher say, this is the exact right way to pray. I've never heard that. And so some of y'all are putting this pressure on yourself of saying, oh, I'm not praying long enough, or I'm not praying specifically, so He's not hearing me. And when I was a little kid, I grew up thinking that I had to pray specifically or else God wouldn't hear me. And so I was very discouraged half the time because I was like, I don't know if I'm praying right. It's literally supposed to be, oh my gosh, sorry, there's people outside. I'm just going to go in the other room. There's someone cutting the grass outside our apartment. Let me close this door. Sorry, you guys. I guess it's like you guys with kids. Sometimes y'all get interrupted. Anyways, so
I've heard time and time again about the time, like the things of y'all saying that like you aren't praying good enough or you aren't praying hard enough, and so that's something that can give you peace today, of knowing there's literally no wrong way to pray. And I've told you all this time and time again. Dallas, my fiance, he's on his own faith journey, and so we obviously like he walks in a little bit differently than I do, and I'm okay with that just because I never want to push him. But he literally prays to God, and he's like, hey yo God, so like I love you and just thank you. And he like, and Dallas kind of, we're from Memphis, and so he kind of has like this like, he's very southern, but he also has like this, not thug, I don't even want to say thug, but it's just funny, it's just his personality. So you can't pray a wrong way, so take the pressure off of yourself. And then it says misconception number 4, it says, if I am waiting, I must not have enough faith. And I have also heard this one before. And so it says, this was the lie I believed as we agonized over Scott's declining health. And Scott was her husband, who I think got diagnosed with cancer. And it says, his faith is quiet and personal. As we lived out the mystery, I watched his discreet faith become deathly silent. His attitude toward prayer and the things of God grew cynical. I do know I've been in this place before where I haven't heard God, and I've told y'all time and time again, there are time and places where I do not feel God, when I do not hear him, and I get discouraged. And I'm like, God, are you punishing me? God, did I not do something right? God, am I like sitting here just like, you're hating me? Like, what is going on? And so I felt those ways where I would get angry and I would just get so silent. I would be like, what's the point of me praying if you're not going to listen to me? And I've heard that time and time again, and I think that's what she's relating to. And it says, while Scott's faith is quiet, mine is vocal. When I wasn't serving or teaching at church, I was leading women's conferences, writing devotions, and book contributions. My prayer life and Bible study were more than a routine. Each morning I had and still have a standing appointment with the Lord. Certainly I was doing enough work for the kingdom to get God's attention concerning Scott's health. How many of y'all have prayed for something, and y'all prayed for something so badly and it still didn't happen? That's when you really test your faith right there. And it says, all of this surely proved my faith was strong enough for the two of us and was worthy of a little healing. Here's the thing, I should have prayed and read my Bible, but not to work my way back into God's good graces. He is a precious and merciful God. My praying and scripture reading do not make him more gracious. Somewhere along the way, I had to convince myself otherwise. God makes us wait at times so we can glean valuable lessons, but he never does do it out of spite. But he never, but this is something David taught me as I continue to wait for God to heal my husband. And if I know correctly, her husband actually passed away. So I don't think he got healed. And I might be reading that wrong, but I think I'm pretty accurate on that one. And so sometimes we sit here and we think of the waiting processes, and you start making all these misconceptions in your head. Like you literally start making all these scenarios of, and I know I'm like this, and I am so guilty of this. When I don't hear him right away, I'm like, oh, God must be punishing me because I didn't learn my lesson last time, or God's angry at me, so he just wants me to learn my lesson, and he wants me to know that like if I don't depend on him, then life is not good. And I start making up all these scenarios, and then they start to make sense. They actually start to make sense. And how many of y'all, and I listened to Stephen Furtick sermon yesterday, he is literally my man. Like I just want to meet him so much. Like he is just awesome. And he was talking about like, and I talk about lies and separating the lies from the truth all the time, but sometimes you genuinely don't know what are lies in your head. And so the misconceptions that you start making in your mind, the scenarios you start making in your mind actually start sounding true. Like in this business, maybe it's just for certain people. Okay, so Morgan and Macy and all these other people have been successful, but like success is just not in the cards for me. I would be too greedy if I had money. I wouldn't be a good steward if I had money. Oh, I'm not praying correctly, and so God's not blessing me in the way. He can only bless people who actually pray in the right way. Oh, God's making me wait. This must mean I'm on the wrong path and he's not blessing me because he doesn't want this thing to happen. And so many of us just bring out these misconceptions in our minds, and then it starts making our minds wander. And when you have your mind wander, then you just go down a freaking rabbit hole, and then you feel like you can't come back from it. And that's why diving in deep into the word and then deep into the Bible every single day is so freaking important, because you cannot sway from the truth of the Bible. You can sway from different people's perspectives of the Bible, okay? But you can't sit here and read the Bible and be like, oh, okay, I'm going to get like 12 different things from it. No, it's the actual truth. And I know that this sounds like all like preachy and stuff, but some of y'all are like sitting here waiting for a sign for you to move forward in your faith. And I think that it just takes a little bit of you moving along the way in order to see the right path that you're on. And I know that so many times when I've doubted myself, when I've had the misconceptions, I'll pray and I'm like, God, if you just make this one little thing happen, or just give me one little sign that you were here, or that you were wanting me to move in the right direction. And he always shows me some type of sign. Or if it has to be a closed door, I'll be like, God, can you please just give me a sign that this needs to be a closed door? Okay. And like, that's like when I quit my job last year, when I was working for a magazine, and it was the first job I got out of college. I was absolutely miserable. I was literally crying every day. It was a very dark place for me. I did not like it. I had to deal with a lot of business owners, and it was just not my vibe. And I'm so prideful to where I won't quit something until like I actually absolutely can't stand to look at myself in the mirror anymore. And I like really wanted some affirmation, confirmation to close the door. And I was like, God, I don't know if you want me to close the door, if this is one of those things where you want me to stick it out. And instantly he showed up right then and there, and he popped up a sermon on my phone, and it said, let go. It was called Let Go, I think. And in that sermon, it literally was a girl preaching. I had never heard her preach before. And it was just talking about letting go of the things that no longer serve you. And I was like, all right. And I quit my job that day, and I've not looked back once. Okay. And so sometimes it's for closed doors, sometimes it's for open doors, sometimes it's leading on your path. But we have so many misconceptions that I think that truly some of us need to identify is, what are you thinking that is a misconception? What are you sitting here thinking that, or what are the lies that you keep building in your head that you don't know that are lies, that you're not worthy? Well, we all know that that's a lie, but sometimes deep down we truly don't know that it's a lie, because that's what we feel. But it says nowhere in the Bible, nowhere on Instagram, nowhere on Facebook, nowhere on your walls, nowhere in your family does it tell you that you are not worthy. Like that, it just doesn't make sense for you to say that you're not worthy. You can feel it, but at the end of the day, you know the actual fact behind it. And so I think that that's why it's so important to dive deep into the faith journey, and dive deep into like the Bible, because you can figure out the truth. Like, God's never going to tell you, oh, you're a piece of crap, or he's never going to make you wait because he's spiteful or he's angry at you. He might, and I don't even know if we're being honest, I don't even know if this is the case, if he's like someone who will teach you a lesson. I feel like he is, but again, not in a spiteful way. It's more of like I had talked about, again, like if you've been in a season of your life and you thought you were out of it, and then you're back in it, chances are it's just because you did not learn something from before, and you just need to go back through it again to see a different perspective. It's literally just like when you see a movie and you thought that movie was so good, and then you see it a next time and you notice things that you didn't notice before, and you're like, oh my gosh, and then you watch it again and you notice more things, and then you watch it again and you notice more things. How many times have y'all done that? I swear every single time I watch a movie, I'll like tell Dallas, because we're freaking movie gurus, like we love movies, and I'll be like, I didn't even know this happened. I didn't even notice they said this. I didn't even notice this. And it's so funny. And that's how our perspective is we gain something every single time, even if it's the same cycle. I literally felt like these past 2 months, I was going deep down into my depression that I had last year again. And I was so scared. I was so terrified. And I was like, God, I cannot do this again. Like, I genuinely don't think I can make it out if I went through that type of depression again. And I felt myself kind of creeping back into it. And so I just really prayed hard. And I was like, there's something you're trying to teach me in this moment. What is this that you're trying to teach me? What in the world are you trying to teach me that I just did not get before? And I just felt like this screaming in my ear of saying, you are depending your joy and you're depending your happiness on too many different things, on success, on wealth, on the people that join your business, on the people in your family, on your friends, on how they validate you, on other people's circumstances, on people's opinions, like all these different things. And I was like, that's why I'm unhappy. It's because you can't control people's emotions. You can't control people's opinions. And so when those aren't controlled, their opinions and stuff are constantly going like this. And that's why I was feeling like this, because I was depending it on them. Whereas God tells you, if you depend your joy on him, then you can be joyful even despite the hard circumstances in your life. And that was a lesson that I really learned. And I don't feel like I'm back in the dark place that I was last year, because I think I caught myself a lot sooner. And that is something that I think is very valuable too, is that you need to learn is, even if you do go through the same season over and over and over again until you figure it out, you can catch yourself sooner. I've caught myself in burnout in this business so many times, because I am someone who, I really do enjoy what we do. And so I can literally sit there all day on my phone working. That's not healthy for me. That's not healthy for my team. That's not healthy for anybody. So I burn myself out easily. And every single time, last year it lasted for like 2 months. Okay. This year, the beginning of the year, it lasted for about 2 weeks. Then a couple of weeks ago, it lasted for a week. So every time I'm learning something new and it's getting shorter. And so you have to gain that perspective of whatever season in life you're going through, that you can get out of it alive. You just have to figure out which misconception or which lie you're telling yourself, reevaluate it and ask yourself, okay, is this true? And then if you don't know if it's true or not, so like for instance, like sometimes I doubt myself. I'm like, can I actually teach duplication? Can I actually help people go diamond and ruby and all these different things? Because every person that I've ever helped do that has quit. And so, like, you start figuring out, you're like, well, the facts tell me otherwise, but I know with everything God is possible. So, like, what's the truth and what's the lie? And so sometimes you have to pray over that. And sometimes you have to journal that out. And that's why I'm so adamant on freaking journaling. If you do not journal by this freaking day, I'm telling you, go get a journal. Even if it just has to be like little scratch paper, I don't care. Start journaling out your thoughts and feelings. And it's an actual true fact of like, once you get the words out, it no longer has a hold on you like it did before in your mental state. And so I just really encourage you to do that, because that's what's helped me through my darkest days. And I've had dark days, like I'm telling you that all the time. And so these are just things that I'm learning along the way. But I think that any of these misconceptions really relate to anybody on here, because like I said, some of y'all have come to me, and these misconceptions you've actually told me in person. Like you've actually told me like, this is what I'm struggling with. And so when I read this, I was like, okay, this is really good. I know I relate to it. I have so many misconceptions in my life. And so I just, hopefully that helps, and hopefully that gains perspective for you guys, and hopefully it kind of gets you through your day to let you know, like, hey, I can make it through. Like God is on my side. He's not here to sit here and punish me. He's just here with me. He's never going to be against me. He's always for me. Even if it feels like in that moment you feel like you're being attacked, I promise you're not. It's sometimes maybe a trial, so he can say stop depending on so many other people. Like that happened to me, and it was a good learning lesson. And I still learn it every single day. I'm still going through it, because some days I'm like, oh, I don't have time for God. I have to do this, this, and this, and this. And then I instantly regret it at the end of the day. I'm like, wow, I kind of feel drained. Wonder why. So it's a constant learning session for me too. But hopefully that helps give people perspective.